Boom, 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 boom. Now tell me what you gonna do, but it ain't nowhere to run. When judgment comes for you, when judgment comes for you, tell me what you gonna do, when it ain't nowhere to hide. When judgment comes for you, 'cause it's gonna come for you.
Making it for water, easy, see something Charlie. Little boo God's got him, and I'm gonna miss everybody out of roll and flow like eggs. Looked at a wild lag and played for dust, and they play too deep for being sad. Little legs I got to be. Tell me your feature deceased, would it please? Marry me by my grand, when you can go follow
God bless you, working on the plan to heaven. Follow the Lord on
Back
24/7.
on Wrestling Network. Welcome back to the CrosUp, your weekly look back at the week that was in professional wrestling. This week I'll be running through the results happening from Collision on January 18th to Saturday night's main event just last night on January 25th. We'll start with Collision. We open with absolute banger where Hangman Page defeats Christopher Daniels in a Texas death match when he nails a buckshot lariat to the back of his head, and Daniels can't answer the 10 count. Then after the match, Page comes back, hits Angel's Wings, which is Christopher Daniels' finisher, on him just to rub the victory in a little bit more. And as it's come out since, this is apparently going to be Daniels' last match of his career. So a hell of a one to go out on, as it will end up being the best match of the night for sure. Not that the rest of the card was bad, but it absolutely blew everything else away that came after it. Well, we then move on, and we have Toni Storm. She's out to talk to Tony Schiavone. She can't believe she is going to her hometown for a title shot in the building where she saw her first wrestling show. Mariah May is the best in the world, and they need to meet face-to-face next week. Tony Schiavone isn't convinced, but goes along with it anyways. We then look at the Hurt Syndicate wrecking Mark Briscoe and Private Party on Dynamite. The Hurt Syndicate want the tag team titles. They continue in that pursuit, and they will get their shot on Dynamite later this week. We then get the Undisputed Kingdom. They defeat Shane Taylor Promotions when O'Reilly and Strong hit the high-low on Charlie Bravo. Post-match, Shane Taylor himself comes in and wrecks the Kingdom, but Daniel Garcia ends up coming in to take them out, and the Undisputed Kingdom and Daniel Garcia and Daddy Magic kind of stand tall. We then look at Kenny Omega returning to the ring on Dynamite, but obviously getting beaten down by the Don Callis family, with Will Ospreay not being able to make the save. Ospreay isn't happy and wants to meet Omega face-to-face next week on Dynamite. We then get the Murder Machines of Lance Archer and Brian Cage defeating Top Flight when they hit their chokeslam powerbomb combo. Post-match, the Machines leave, so Action Andretti and Leo Rush come in and pick up the scraps and continue their rivalry with Top Flight. We then get the Learning Tree. They insist that they will be on the same page as the Death Riders in the main event tonight. Chris Jericho talks about his history with Jon Moxley, and if Moxley is smart, or if he's as smart as Jericho thinks he is, they'll be fine tonight when they have their match. We then get the Undisputed Kingdom. They thank Daniel Garcia and challenge the Undisputed Kingdom challenge he and Daddy Magic to find a partner for a 6-man match on Dynamite. We then get Max Caster. He comes out with a bag. He comes out to talk. He wants to clear the air with his tag team partner, Anthony Bowens, who obviously comes to the ring once he says that. Caster talks about how they're a great team, but the issue is that Bowens will not admit that Caster is the best wrestler in the world. That obviously pisses Bowens off pretty bad, as he talks about how he protected Caster from people finding out his expectations. Bowens has worked to represent this company for a long time and is AEW's 5-tool player. Caster whips out a trademark dubbing him the best in the world. Billy Gunn comes out to ask what is going on with the two of them because they did some amazing things together. Caster calls Gunn selfish for making it about himself when it should be about Caster, and it has been all along. He says Gunn ruins every team, including one with his own kids. Bowens is then able to pick. He is told to pick a side, and he ends up picking Billy, which obviously pisses Caster off, and he kind of walks away. He goes on a huge rant about how much the crowd sucks tonight and how those two suck. And then Bowens says he's going to scissor with Gunn one more time. and then Caster kind of storms off because he is left out of the scissor fest that proceeds to happen after that. We then get Swerve Strickland. He was in a celebrity golf tournament the previous week. Swerve with Prince Nana is ready to end Ricochet in Atlanta on February 5th. He said he can't wait to choke him out. We then get Kazuchika Okada defeating Tomohiro Ishii via pinfall after a low blow followed by the Rainmaker. We then get Dustin Rhodes squashing Adam Priest via pinfall following the Final Reckoning. We then get Julia Hart defeating Harley Cameron via submission with Heartless. And then we cut to the back, and the Learning Tree have taken out Powerhouse Hobbs, who is supposed to be part of tonight's main event. We then get that main event where Hobbs actually does make it out eventually, and he, Rated FTR, and the Outrunners defeat the Learning Tree and the Death Riders when Hobbs is able to hit a big spine buster on Brian Keith to get the victory. So like I said earlier, the best match was the opener between old Hanger and Christopher Daniels. Just an absolute bomb fest, weapons all over the place, blood everywhere, just weapons, was super entertaining and exactly the match that it needed to be. We will go on from there to go to TNA's Genesis pay-per-view that happened this past Sunday. We open with Moose defeating Ace Austin via pinfall following a spear to retain his X Division title. The System then start a beatdown, but Steve Macklin and Eric Young come out and save, and that leads to actually the next match that happens where Steve Macklin and EY defeat Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards when Macklin hits the KIA on Brian Myers. We then get Spitfire retaining their TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championships over Ash and Heather by Elegance when they hit the pressure drop on Ash. We then get Tessa Blanchard defeating Jordan Grace via pinfall following Magnum, which is a leaping codebreaker from the middle rope. We then get Mike Santana. He defeats Josh Alexander in an I Quit match after threatening to curb stomp Josh's face into the corner of one of the steel steps. Post-match, Santana gets a mic and tells Alexander to stand and face him. And then he kept his word, and now Alexander wants to keep his and shake hands. Alexander does, and they shake. He grabs the mic and says he is a man of his word and that Mike Santana is now the standard of TNA. Alexander says he quit tonight, but he also quits TNA also. And then he walks away with, the fans kind of with their heads in their hands wondering what the fuck just happened. But he is seemingly quit TNA. But we'll talk about more of that when we get to Impact later in the week. We then get Fraxium from NXT. They're here to watch the tag title match for tonight, which is the Hardys defeating the Rascals when they hit the Twist of Fate and Swanton on Trey. We then get a Chris Bay package showing his career highlights and asking for donations to his GoFundMe, obviously continuing that campaign to kind of get him some help with his medical bills as he suffered a pretty bad neck injury that could pretty much, I think there's a chance that he may never wrestle again. So, but they continue to kind of push that campaign forward, which they should, because he's a great talent and did a lot of good stuff for them. We then get the announcers talking about next week's Impact, where Santino will apparently address Josh Alexander quitting, and we will get Fraxium versus the Rascals for the NXT Tag Team Championships. We then get Masha Slamovich. She defeats Rosemary in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match by hitting the Requiem pile driver from the middle rope onto a stack of chairs. Post-match, some music hits, and Cora Jade comes out. She comes out and they kind of stare down and jaw back and forth at each other a little bit, with Cora pretty much saying she wants the Knockouts title and wants a shot at Masha. We then get Santino. He is out with a mic to hype up the main event. He then talks to the opening show panel, but they are kind of interrupted by Ryan Nemeth. He shows up to get the crowd kind of a little bit more behind Joe Hendry, kind of annoying them so nobody will cheer for Nemeth in the main event. Santino doesn't like Ryan and reminds him that he's got no business in this main event and uses the power invested in him by God himself and bans Ryan from ringside and actually tells the security to get him out of the building completely. He does make his way back in, but he bought a quote unquote bought a ticket and ends up sitting ringside. But then we get our main event where Joe Hendry finally becomes the new TNA World Champion by defeating Nick Nemeth following the standing ovation. And then there was some chicanery with JBL, who ends up coming out to take out Kazarian, who tried to cash in his cup, and he takes out Ryan Nemeth as well, but doesn't actually do anything to Hendry or Nick this time. But Hendry celebrates with the crowd before the show fades to black. Tessa and Jordan is from this show was probably one of the best women's matches I've probably ever seen. I don't think that's very hyperbolic. It was damn near 5 stars, I would say. So definitely go out of your way to check this one out. It was absolutely fantastic. These two women are two of the most talented people in the entire world, not just women, just wrestlers in general. I know people don't like Tessa. I obviously get it. I support the idea of why a lot of people don't like her, but she is absolutely one of the best in-ring competitors out there, and Jordan is absolutely the same as well. So definitely go out of your way to check that one out if you want to just check out a really, really good wrestling match, not just a good women's match. But we'll move on from there to Raw. We are shown that Nia Jax jumped Rhea Ripley before the show, kind of on the way into the building. We then get Jey Uso out to start the show in front of the crowd. He says he declares that he is now in this city, but here Gunther pretty much immediately interrupts him. Gunther says he's not impressed with Uso saying that he's going to beat him and hang the World Heavyweight title in his room. Gunther says, "You really are a funny little man." Uso has talked about how he bets on himself every day, and that had Gunther interested. Then he saw Uso coming out here and acting like a complete dork or a company mascot. Right now, Gunther might as well be fighting Jimmy Uso, which doesn't make Jey very happy. How long will Jey bet on himself? Until Cody Rhodes or Roman Reigns needs him again? He is nothing more than a useful idiot, and he doesn't even realize it. Gunther promises to expose him on Saturday. Jey agrees that he is a mascot and that the people here are his team, and the people around the world are his team. They ride with him, and they'll be there Saturday when he wins the title. Gunther is going to respect him, but Jey is the one who... Or Gunther is going to respect him because Jey is the one who is main evented WrestleMania between the two of them. This pisses off Gunther, and the fight is on, and Jey super kicks him out of the ring to the floor to kind of end things. We then get New Day in the back. They run into JBL, who they think will understand them in their stance of what they've been doing lately. JBL is the guest commentator for Kofi's match against Rey Mysterio tonight. And they actually pay him off to be nice to them. Kofi brings up JBL cutting the dead weight of Ron Simmons from the APA, and JBL gets what they did with Big E. He then talks about, he says, you have Big E with all that muscle and charisma, and everybody loves him, and that leaves people to cheer for you two, I guess. And then New Day is pretty pissed about what he just said. So JBL kind of getting that good snipe in there. We then get Bayley. She says she is officially back on Raw thanks to the transfer window. And then she also announces that she's going to try to go back to back and officially puts her name in the Women's Royal Rumble. Nia Jackson comes in, and she says she is going to win the Royal Rumble. And they kind of tease like they're going to fight, but nothing comes of it. We then get Rey Mysterio. He defeats Kofi Kingston via pinfall, reversing an SOS attempt into a roll-up of his own. Post-match, the beatdown is on, but the LWO run in for the save. New Day bails, but actually do come back in and take out Joaquin Wilde. We then get a look back at Penta's debut. We then get American Made. They are not happy with what happened last week and promise to win a bunch of titles in the future. Chad Gable has someone to help him master Lucha Libre, and that is going to be Dominic Mysterio. We then look back at Wade Barrett, who is on commentary, obviously. They show him winning the first season of NXT nearly 15 years ago in the arena that they are in tonight. We then get Sami Zayn out for a chat. He says he's in the Royal Rumble, and that's because it's time for him to move into the top level of WWE. He has done a lot of great things, and he has had a great life and career The difference between himself and the top stars is a world title. He needs to become world champion to kind of align himself with those guys. He doesn't need to validate his career, but 14-year-old him wanted a world title, and he is going to take it. Kevin Owens and Kevin Owens then comes out, and Sami Zayn looks like he's seen a ghost. Zayn says he knew it was a matter of time before Owens showed up. So he does. So how does he want to do this? Owens isn't sure what he means and talks about Zayn teaming with Roman Reigns. Owens didn't get it at first, but it makes sense because Sami is a good guy. They're closer than brothers, and the one thing they haven't done is main event WrestleMania against each other. That can happen if Zayn can win the Royal Rumble and Owens can beat Cody Rhodes. Owens has Zayn's back and knows and says he knows that Zayn will have his if he needs it too. That's another. Or then Owens leaves, and Zayn kind of looks confused from that. We then get Sheamus. He is ready to win the Intercontinental title because it is the one title he's never won, and it drew him. It's the title that drew him to WWE in the first place. Braun Breaker then comes in, holds up the title, and says this is as close as Sheamus is going to get to it. On Saturday, he's going to beat him like the old man that he is. Sheamus then shoves him away, and Breaker just laughs it off and continues to walk away. We then get Nia Jax. She defeats Bayley via pinfall following the Annihilator. Post-match, Rhea Ripley, still kind of banged up from earlier, comes out for a brawl with Nia, and Nia ends up getting in a splash. Security can't break it up, and the fight goes to the outside where Ripley knocks Nia into the barricade. She then grabs the mic and issues a challenge for the Women's World Title at Saturday night's main event. So Nia and Rhea will happen at Saturday night's main event, which I'll talk about later. We then look back at Damian Priest beating Finn Balor last week in the street fight. Chad Gable is then in the Judgment Day clubhouse and talks about learning the secret arts of Lucha Libre from Dominic Mysterio. He gets the other member of Judgment Day's names wrong and leaves with the rest of the team. Balor is not there. Liv Morgan and Mysterio then seem to be okay with each other, but Morgan seems to have an idea of what they can do to kind of course correct how Judgment Day's kind of been going off the rails lately. We then look at Lyra Valkyria winning the inaugural Women's Intercontinental Championship last week. We then get Sami Zayn. He runs into Seth Rollins. He says he appreciates their talk last week. Rollins is glad to hear it, but they'll both throw each other out of the Royal Rumble if it comes down to it. And then Karrion Kross is kind of shown way in the background, kind of he seems very interested in contemplating doing something devious, it looks like. We then get Penta. He defeats Pete Dunne via pinfall following the Penta driver. We then get Logan Paul. He thinks it must suck to hate him because he is just so good at everything. Why should WWE be any different? And he says he will make his Raw debut next week. We then get CM Punk. He's kind of in the crowd, up in the crowd with Jackie Redmond. He talks to the crowd a little bit. He hits all of his catchphrases. He is asked about the various ways to get to the main event of WrestleMania. We hear about how stacked the Royal Rumble field is. So why is this one different for Punk? Punk says it's because of history, like the history he made when he won the first main event of Raw on Netflix. He'll make that same kind of history in 2 weeks, which is when the lights and pressure are on the most. That is when he is at his best, and he can't see John Cena throwing him out. Roman Reigns needed his help at War Games, and he isn't worried about anyone. From Sami Zayn to Drew McIntyre to Hulk Hogan, at the Royal Rumble, he's settling debts and calling in a favor if he needs to. We then get Damage Control. They defeat the Pure Fusion Collective when Io Sky hits the Over the Moonsault on Shayna. This was actually a handicap match, and Io and Dakota were able to beat the trio of. I don't know if it was a tag match, but I feel like Sonya got involved at some point. So I don't really know if she was ever in the match. She was definitely out there, but it may have just been Shayna and Zoe. But I feel like Sonya got involved at some point, and I couldn't really tell if it was a tag or a handicap. So who knows? But Damage Control won either way. And then we get our main event where Seth Rollins defeated Drew McIntyre via pinfall when he ducked a clothesline and catches Drew with a surprise roll up. And then after the match, McIntyre attacks Rollins, but Sami Zayn comes out. McIntyre headbutts Sami Zayn down and goes after Rollins again. And Sami Zayn tries to hit the haluva kick on McIntyre, but accidentally ends up hitting Rollins. McIntyre leaves, and Rollins stares at Zayn, who tries to calm things down as they go off air. That main event was the best match of Raw, I would say for sure. Nia Jax and Bayley, who have had some really bad stinkers on pay-per-view over the last year, I would say they must have figured some stuff out, because they really, really did really good on this match. I thought it was much better than what they had done in the past. So really good stuff. But Rollins and McIntyre would definitely win the night for me. We'll then move on to NXT. Tony D'Angelo defeated Ridge Holland in the opener via pinfall with his big spine buster after some chaos on the outside with the family. And Izzy Dame was out there, and Sean Spears' crew was kind of involved. So just a lot of chaos. We then get Wes Lee. He's with Igwe and DuPont. They are not happy with Dion Lennox. Trick Williams then comes in, and Lee mocks Trick, which immediately gets him a right hand from Trick Williams. We then get Bayley, who is returning after last week. She's out to talk to the crowd. She's here to talk about her issues with Roxanne Perez, who could be great, but slapped her in the face. Perez thinks Bayley is like Natalya and CM Punk, but that might be a compliment. Last night, Perez interfered on Raw, and that makes Bayley think Perez isn't ready. This women's division has a lot going on, and with the champion like Julia at the top, and Julia then of course comes out and says she certainly respects Bayley. Julia hopes to hold the title with as much honor as Bayley did. Bayley is appreciative as Roxanne and Cora then interrupt to insult her. The fans boo them out of the building and suggest that Bayley wants the women's title because this era has exceeded the 4 Horsewomen era. And then a brawl ensues with Roxanne and Cora quickly getting dispatched. So obviously leading to a tag team match next week between those 4. We then get Jada Parker and Kalani. They kind of argue in the locker room, but Carmen comes in and interrupts and gets in a fight with Jada over Ashante the Adonis. We then get Wes Lee. He defeats Dion Lennox via pinfall with the cardiac kick. And then post-match, Lee calls out Trick Williams for a match next week. So Trick comes out to chase him off and accepts. We then get Stephanie Vaquer. She wants the women's North American title shot that she earned, but obviously lost to Shotzi last week, but kind of got screwed out of it. And she says she doesn't care who has the belt after next week, but she wants the first shot. We then get Lexis King defeats Charlie Dempsey via pinfall in round 4 when he snuck in a low blow and followed it with the coronation, retaining his Heritage Cup championship. We then get Naomi and Bianca Belair. They are ready for the Meta 4 girls next week. We then get Andre Chase telling Hank and Tank to break up now because all teams end up splitting. As Kalani Jordan walks in the background, Chase goes to another room and sees people watching Chase U videos. Kel Dixon then says Chase was great and Chase says Chase U is dead and leaves. And then Kel Dixon kind of says something to him as he's leaving. It says, but it doesn't have to be. We then get Carmen Petrovich. She defeats Jada Parker via pinfall with a roll-up after a distraction from Kalani Jordan. We then get Sol Ruka and Zarya. They're talking to the Meta Girls. They kind of try to give them a pep talk before their women's tag title match next week. We then get Brooks Jensen and Vance. They defeat Stax and Luca Cruzifino when Jensen hits a spinning wheel kick, and then Vance follows it with a big clothesline. We then get Fraxium. They're happy with their win last week, and they're ready to go to Impact to defend against the Rascals. Josh Briggs and Yoshiki and Amora interrupt and say they want their title shot. OTM then comes in and brawls with them after what happened before their match last week. We then get Dion Lennox. He is annoyed and throws a bunch of stuff in the backstage. The D'Angelo family isn't happy with Tony D not being out there for the tag title match, but talks about him. He was talking to Izzy Dame when they walked up, and she just wouldn't shut up, so he couldn't get away. D'Angelo then says Stax has been the underboss for 2 years, and he can do something on his own instead of always needing Tony's help. We think at Ethan Page, he is happy with hurting people and likes the sound of people screaming in pain, including Javon Evans, of course. Javon Evans then talks about wanting to fight Ethan Page, but Ava says no, obviously due to his injury. Cedric Alexander, however, is healthy and is ready to face Ethan Page next week. Evans and Alexander leave, but A-Town Down Under come in. They are supposed to host the Grayson Waller Effect next week. They offer the spot to the NXT champion, whoever that may be. And they ask for maybe to have a little extra security in case it's Obafemi. And then as for tonight, they say they're going to just sit down and watch the main event, which will happen next, where Obafemi defends his NXT championship, defeating Eddie Thorpe via pinfall following the fall from Grace powerbomb. The first match with D'Angelo and Holland, I thought was a really solid effort by both guys. I would say that was match of the night, but that main event was also a pretty solid contest, mostly for Obafemi reasons, because he's really good, and Eddie Thorpe's kind of he's all right, but he's nothing special, I would say. But we'll move from there to Dynamite. We open things with Will Ospreay. He quickly calls out Kenny Omega. Ospreay talks about how Omega came back in a weird time because the Death Riders are holding the world title hostage, and Ospreay wants to do something about that, but he can't seem to get away from the Don Callis family. Omega talks about them fighting at Forbidden Door, where Ospreay tried to drop him on his head and then stab him with a screwdriver. That makes Ospreay no better than Callis, and no matter what he does, Omega is still better. Ospreay can take the number 2 spot because Omega is back and has the number 1 spot locked up. Don Callis then comes out, but Omega immediately goes after him instead of letting him say any nonsense. But Takeshita comes out, jumping Omega. Kyle Fletcher then comes in for the beatdown, and Ospreay, though he hesitates at first, comes to make the save. They continue to brawl, with Callis eventually sending out the murder machines to kind of help Fletcher and Takeshita, and the big fight heads into the concourse. Ospreay and Omega fight back, and put Lance Archer through a well-placed merchandise table. The brawl then heads back into the arena with Omega and Ospreay both hitting crazy moonsault dives from kind of structures that are around the arena that they're in to take all of the Don Callis family down. Ospreay then climbed the light structure again, and Ospreay says next time it's Callis's turn to get a beating, and then issues a challenge for Grand Slam Australia to take on Takeshita and Fletcher. So as much as Omega was out on teaming like 2 minutes ago, he is all in on taking out the Don Callis family at the Grand Slam show. We then get the Death Riders. They talk about how Cope is in a world he doesn't understand. He's willing to finish the job on Cope's neck, but because they don't have time for relics of the past. We then get the Hurt Syndicate. They defeat Private Party and become the new AEW Tag Team Champions when Lashley absolutely destroys Cassidy with a spear. We then get video of Mariah May versus Toni Storm at Grand Slam. We then get Harley Cameron. She gives Toni Storm a pep talk. They talk in like Australian phrases, and Renee is just standing there and eventually says, I didn't understand a single word that they just said. So, they just have their certain dialect, or not dialect, but certain like phrases that they say that like only an Australian would understand. We then get Jeff Jarrett. He's out to talk. He talks about being on after Jerry Lawler one night and not doing quite as well, including on the microphone. After the match, Lawler asked what Jarrett was thinking. He never get in the gutter with your opponent like he did with MJF last week. They'll deal with that one day, but for now he wants Jon Moxley out here. Moxley's music hits, but Claudio is the one that comes out. He jumps Jarrett instead. Claudio says no one gets to Moxley without getting through him first, so stay out of their business. And then with Castagnoli in the crowd, Jarrett challenges him next week with a title shot coming if he wins. We then get video of our new women's superstar Megan Bain, and kind of to hype her up and hype up her inclusion in the the Casino Gauntlet from the previous week. We then get Swerve Strickland defeating AR Fox via pinfall with the Swerve Stomp, and then post-match Ricochet pops up to show that he has Prince Nana held at Scissor Point, and they will face each other next week, Swerve and Ricochet. We then get the Learning Tree, or they'll face each other on the 5th, I think is what Swerve said. The Learning Tree is then happy to be here in Knoxville in the Rocky Mountains. Big Bill seems okay with the loss, but Jericho doesn't seem happy. What is Bill going to do about it? And Bill challenges Hobbs to a match on Collision coming up on Saturday. We then get MJF. There's a jobber in the ring. He tells him to get the hell out of his ring. He wants an apology from Jeff Jarrett because it is hilarious that Jarrett thinks he's going to win a world title in 2025 without MJF's help. Maybe he is as senile as he looks. The reality is that wrestling does not love Jarrett anymore, and neither do these fans. A mediocre, there's a pretty tepid Double J chant after that. But MJF says Jarrett might be better off making a deal with the devil rather than defying the devil. We then get Hangman Page. He actually defeats the jobber from the previous segment with the buckshot lariat in about 30 seconds. And then post-match, Page gives him the Angel's Wings again to kind of as a dig to Christopher Daniels. Christopher Daniels then comes out to say he regrets taking the match with Page because his neck is so damaged that doctors have advised him to never wrestle again. He hopes Page can be happy and then walks away. And then Page seems a little bit shaken up about the idea that he may have ended Daniels' career. Mercedes Moné is then ready to continue her international expansion. She says she's ready to fight in Australia, so Harley Cameron comes in to challenge her. In song, she actually sings her a little song. She is going to make Moné feel her wrath because 4 belts is a bit too much. Moné then says no because Cameron hasn't won a match on AEW TV in a long time. I think she says ever, but I can't imagine that's true. But she definitely hasn't won in a while. But according to Moné, Cameron has never won a match by herself. We then get Jamie Hayter. She defeats Julia Hart via pinfall following the Haterade. Post-match, Hayter says she's up for a rubber match anytime, as they have both obviously defeated each other 1-1. We then get Powerhouse Hobbs. He will be waiting for Big Bill in the parking lot at Collision. Swerve then says he's coming after Ricochet soon. We then get Brody King, Buddy Matthews, and Julia Hart. They suggest that they have no leader anymore. Obviously, again, kind of leading to think that Malachi Black is gone for good. And then King puts on a mask and talks about barking, and then he barks like they're dogs. We then get the main event where Cope defeats Pac via pinfall following a TKO. We cut to the back after the match, and the Death Riders have kidnapped FTR once again and beat up the Rock and Roll Express again. The Death Riders then go after Cope, and the beatdown is on. Jay White then runs in for the save, but gets beaten down as well, leaving John Moxley to do the Bulldog choke on Cope to end the show, kind of leaving him laying. But I thought the tag team title change was the best match. Mostly for the moment. I think it was the crowd was pretty hyped for the Hurt Syndicate to get that victory. And I think it was a pretty solid match at the same time. But yeah, not much in the way of great matches on this one. This was more about moments and kind of backstage segments and stuff like that. But yeah, that tag title match was definitely at least really good for the moment. We will then go from there to Impact. We get some highlights of Genesis to open things. This is also the first time that they have been live in 8 years. So they are live tonight from San Antonio, Texas. We then go outside with Gia Miller and Santino promises a historic night and says he has a few surprises up his sleeve. Joe Hendry then gets things going in the arena. He thanks the fans for always believing in him, and now it is time for him to start a new era. That's why he wants to be a fighting champion and is willing to defend the title against anyone from anywhere. Therefore, the title is going to be on the line tonight with Hendry defending against, and which Santino had come out and announces that it's going to be Matt Cardona taking on Joe Hendry tonight. We then look at Mike Santana making Josh Alexander quit at Genesis. Eric Young isn't sure what's going on with Alexander. And then he's talking to Macklin and thinks Alexander needs to be saved. Macklin isn't convinced, but Alexander comes in himself to say thank you for believing in him to both guys. He shakes EY's hand and goes to shake Macklin's hand, but Macklin obviously doesn't trust him enough to do that right now. We then get Nick Nemeth. He's with his brother, and they kind of talk. He kind of says he'll talk about his loss later on. The Ash and Heather by Elegance and Rosemary then defeat Masha Slamovich and Spitfire after Cora Jade had provided enough of a distraction for Ash to roll up Danny Luna. We then get the Northern Armory out for a chat. Josh Alexander reminds us that he quit TNA and thanks TNA for giving him the chance to explain why he did so. After being the Iron Man for years, he broke at Genesis and now wants to think of the good times as he is ready to leave TNA behind. He was inspired watching the first TNA show all the way back in 2002, but now he's ready to go. Sinner and Saint don't seem too happy about all of this and end up jumping Josh, and then EY eventually comes and makes the save and offers for Alexander to have one last match and tag with him against Sinner and Saint. We then get the Hardys. They defeat the System, represented tonight by Moose and JDC, when Jeff hits the Swanton on JDC. Post-match, the number 23 appears on the screen again before they go to commercial. We then get Sami Callihan out pissed, and he wants to know who number 23 is right now. Steph DeLander actually comes out. She claims that she is the new digital media champion. She says she got the title in the divorce with PCO, so PCO is gone from TNA, so they are playing up that Steph DeLander divorced him in that time, and she has become the new digital media champion in the process. She says with her husband out the door, it is time to meet her new boyfriend, which is former GCW World Champion Mance Warner, who Delander claimed that she was 23, but I'm guessing 23 was really supposed to be Mance Warner. Warner then hits Callahan in the face with the title and ends up kissing Steph DeLander, which I think they are actually a couple in real life. So good to see them together in a company as well. And Mance deserves a better and bigger stage. He's been killing it with GCW for years and all over the indies and stuff like that. But him getting a bigger opportunity with TNA here is a really awesome spot. I mean, I would even say maybe he deserves to be on an even bigger stage than TNA, but TNA is a step in the right direction, and hopefully he can continue to be awesome in TNA and maybe get some shots in NXT and maybe eventually go to WWE as well. We then get Fraxium. They defeat the Rascals when Axiom hits the Super Spanish Fly, and then Frazier follows that with a Phoenix Splash on Miguel. Mike Santana is out for a chat. He said his father taught him to be a man of his word, and that is what he has done since he came back to TNA. On Sunday, he made Josh Alexander quit, and now he wants to be the world champion. Mustafa Ali then comes out and interrupts him, and he has officially signed a new contract with the company, and therefore it is time for him to launch a campaign to become the new world champion himself, which Santana didn't really pop up at any point, but I'm assuming this is kind of setting up maybe them going at it in the future for some kind of title shot. We then get Tessa Blanchard. She comes out for a chat. She talks about her family being from San Antonio and her grandfather bringing the first national wrestling show to television. Her father and grandfather knew that there was something special in her, and now it is time for her to step up. She is back and answers to no one. And then we get our main event where Joe Hendry defeats Matt Cardona via pinfall with the standing ovation after some shenanigans on the outside, once again with JBL. And Cardona had brought the title belt in a little bit as well. So some chicanery kind of at the end, but Hendry retains over Matt Cardona. Fraxium and Rascals, no shock there. Absolutely the best match of the show. But a solid impact for it being their first live show in a long time. We then go to SmackDown. We open with Joe Tessitore. He welcomes us to the show and brings out Cody Rhodes. Tessitore brings up Rhodes having to hand over his title tomorrow night to set up for the ladder match at the Royal Rumble. Rhodes is ready for the whole thing and knows Shawn Michaels is ready to be a perfect moderator. He's fine handing the title over to Michaels, but it is time to get ready for WrestleMania season. Tessitore brings up Rhodes' issues with Owens, who Rhodes praises for his skills. The violence makes the ladder match all the more appropriate because it is all about climbing the ladder and reaching this championship. As for what Rhodes would like to say to Owens before the match, maybe it's true that Rhodes smiles a lot, but it doesn't mean that he can't take it to another level. He is a son of a plumber and the student of Randy Orton, so he is ready to punch Owens in the face and knock him back onto his island of self-righteousness, and tells Kevin Owens good luck at the Rumble. We then get Pretty Deadly. They come up to DIY, but they don't have time for Pretty Deadly's match. DIY tells them to handle the Motor City Machine Guns tonight and do whatever it takes. With DIY gone, Pretty Deadly runs into Legado del Fantasma, and they have a pretty tense stand down. Obviously, possibly, maybe they'll have something going forward. Another match between the Garzas and Pretty Deadly. But then we get our match where the Motor City Machine Guns defeat Pretty Deadly, so they didn't really do what DIY told them to do. But they hit the Motor City Machine Guns hit the Skull and Bones on Kit Wilson to get the pin. We then get Miz. He is officially on SmackDown, but doesn't seem to know about it. All this kind of just tells him he's a member of the SmackDown roster. He's very pissed about it because he doesn't want to be on the same show as the Wyatt Six, because that's why he got them traded there in the first place. Aldis then advises him that he might want to find some new friends because he is going to be a subject to their beatdowns, if not. We then get video for Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu. That'll happen on Saturday night's main event. We then get Kevin Owens. He invades commentary and wants to know where his interview is. Tessitore. He tells Tessitore he is so annoying that he makes Owens wish that Michael Cole was still here. Owens then gets on the announcer's table and gets into an argument with Matthew McConaughey, who's in the crowd, before Jey Uso comes out and interrupts. Owens isn't pleased, but Uso says Owens talked too much and hits him in the face. And then Owens bails, and Uso issues a challenge for tonight's main event. We think Carmelo Hayes. He is mad at Nick Aldis and says he was supposed to face Jimmy Uso. So what's supposed to happen now? Aldis says he moves the match to next week, but lets Hayes have a match with the newest SmackDown acquisition. Hayes says that's fine, but he wants to meet the opponent before they go to the ring. We then get Meechin and B-Fab defeating Piper Niven and Chelsea Green when Meechin hits Eat Defeat on Green. We then get Carmelo Hayes, where he meets his new opponent for tonight, which is Damian Priest. Hayes is pretty upset with this, but the match is on for tonight and says he's going to take him down. We then get an official announcement that Charlotte Flair is going to be back at the Royal Rumble. We then get Tiffany Stratton out for a chat. She isn't worried about the winner of the Royal Rumble because she'll beat anyone. Rhea Ripley then comes out. She's ready to face anyone because she is going to beat Nia Jax tomorrow night. Jax and LeRae then come out with Jax officially entering the Royal Rumble. Yes, she's going to enter the Royal Rumble, and she's also going to win the title from Ripley tomorrow. So she's going to end up trying to go for a double championship at WrestleMania. Naomi and Belair then come out, and they are both in the Rumble as well. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez then interrupt as well, with Morgan saying her and Raquel will also be in the Royal Rumble. And then eventually Rhea Ripley headbutts Liv before we get or before we go to our next match, where Candice, Nia, and Liv defeat Bianca, Naomi, and Rhea when Liv is able to catch Bianca with a roll-up after some chaos had been happening outside. We then get Chelsea Green. She is upset at the loss that she had tonight, and it's made worse when Michin comes in announcing that she has one more title shot next week against Chelsea for the U.S. Women's title. Piper Niven then says they need a bigger security detail, as she has been kind of acting like Chelsea's Secret Service agent lately. We then get Apollo Crews. He defeats Johnny Gargano via pinfall with a roll-up following a Machine Guns distraction. Jacob Fatu is ready for Braun Strowman because he is King Kong and Godzilla, plus all gas and no brakes. Then Tama Tonga obviously does his little yeah sound. Because he has a match next where he actually loses to LA Knight. LA Knight wins via pinfall following the BFT. Post-match, Fatu jumps in and takes out Knight and drives him into the announcer's table. Braun Strowman comes in, and Tonga has to hold Fatu back. That doesn't work so well, so Tonga tries a distraction only to have Fatu miss a charge. Strowman then clears the ring and stands tall. We then get Miz. He tries to recruit A-Town Down Under to kind of be his buddies, but he finds out that they have been sent to Raw instead. Shinsuke Nakamura warns anyone and everyone coming after the U.S. title, and then he also enters the Royal Rumble. We then get Damian Priest. He defeats Carmelo Hayes via pinfall following the South of Heaven chokeslam. We then get an announcement that the Motor City Machine Guns are going to get a 2 out of 3 falls match against DIY for the tag team titles at the Royal Rumble. DIY is pretty pissed about this. Cody Rhodes then welcomes Damian Priest to SmackDown, and Priest says he'll see Cody Rhodes soon. We then get Miz trying to recruit Andrade and says Andrade needs somebody to guide him. Andrade likes that idea and then goes off to find someone else. We then get Jimmy Uso. He walks past Carmelo Hayes and tells him he's ready to beat him next week. And then Kevin Owens defeats Jimmy Uso via pinfall following the pop-up powerbomb to win the main event. And then after the match, he goes for the pile driver, but Cody Rhodes comes in to make the save. And Owens is beaten down as the fight continues to end the show. As far as matches and best match of the show, I would go with the Motor City Machine Guns versus Pretty Deadly. Pretty regularly since they came in, Motor City Machine Guns usually have the best match of the show. I would say that was absolutely the case tonight. Pretty Deadlies can be really good, and they're definitely capable of having a really good match if they're in there with a really good team like the Machine Guns. So that was no different here. We will wrap things up with the Saturday night's main event show from last night. Jesse the Body Ventura and Joe Tessitore opened the show standing at the podium near the entranceway. Ventura trashed San Antonio for shutting down schools during the snow storms of the last week. He's obviously from Minnesota, so he doesn't understand why they can't handle cold weather. He talks about the Intercontinental title and that match between Braun Breaker and Sheamus, and he'll be commentating that lately. And he says if Sheamus wins tonight, then he's going to make the Hall of Fame, no doubt about it. We then get Rhea Ripley. She defeats Nia Jax via pinfall following Riptide to retain her Women's World title. We then get some legends shown in the crowd. I believe this is when Medusa and Mark Henry are shown. We then get Braun Breaker. He actually defeats Sheamus via pinfall. So Sheamus still looking for that IC title, but he finishes him off with the Super Spear. At one point, there was a controversial count where Braun got his foot on the rope, and Ventura is all over the ref after the match about that. We then get more legends shown in the crowd. I believe this is when DiBiase is shown, Dory Funk Jr. is shown, and Jim Duggan. We then get the contract signing for the ladder match at the Royal Rumble between Cody and Kevin Owens. Shawn Michaels said he's happy to be back in his hometown, while adding that he was sweating his ass off from doing all the dancing that he's not used to doing anymore. He said his job is to get the signatures from Cody and KO, which Nick Aldis wasn't able to do on SmackDown. But he was sent in as the closer to get things done. He introduces Owens first, and then Cody comes out next. He told Cody and Owens to have a seat, but they both refused to do so as they stand in front of the table instead. Michaels said that they have battered and beaten each other and as much as they've enjoyed it, his assignment is to get them to sign the contract. Cody obviously signs it fairly quickly. Owens kind of hesitates and then doesn't sign it at first. He said that last night Cody said something that really pissed him off, claiming that Owens takes the easy way nine times out of 10. Owens says he didn't take the easy way out at Bash at Berlin when he didn't go after Cody's knee because of their friendship. Owens said that Cody took the easy way out when things got hard for him and left WWE back in the day. Cody shouted enough to get him to shut up. He said that Shawn Michaels didn't return to his hometown to hear Kevin Owens talk about this. Cody said that he was done worrying about Kevin Owens and instead he is ready and wants to focus on defending his championship against whoever it will be at WrestleMania. So he told Owens to please shut up and sign the contract. Owens didn't sign it again as he kind of went to do so, but didn't do it. Owens said that Cody is not done worrying about Owens. Owens said that he would shut everyone up who claims that he is not the real champion because Owens is the rightful WWE champion. Owens said that everything Cody got when he came back, it's coming to Owens because that's what he deserves after the last 10 years, and he is taking it from him. Michaels told Owens that he sounds a little jealous of Cody. Owens tells him to repeat himself and ask what he said. Owens said that, of course, Michaels sides with Cody because Michaels quit too back in the day. Owens said that Michaels is jealous that Owens has brought more pride to the title belt that he holds over his shoulder than Michaels ever did. Owens said that when he wins at the Rumble, he'll give everyone a champion to look up to and a champion who won't lose his smile because the only one losing his title and his smile is Cody. Owens finally signs the contract and pushed it against Shawn's chest. Michael said that they need to take those championships and hang them above the ring. The ref comes in and hangs them up. Michaels then said Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium, one man will ascend the ladder and walk out the undisputed WWE champion. He wishes them good luck. And then Michaels goes to shake each of their hands. Owens refuses. And while he's shaking Cody's hand, Owens punches Cody with a cheap shot. Owens then teased a pile driver on Michaels, but Cody kicks Owens off. And then after Owens was knocked down, Michaels gets back up, nails Sweet Chin Music, and sends Owens out of the ring. And then we finish the show with a couple of matches and a couple of segments. But Braun Strowman actually defeats Jacob Fatu via DQ. But after the match, Fatu savagely beats and bloodies Strowman, leaving him lying on the mat with a bloody face after the match. So as much as Fatu didn't win the match, he absolutely won the night as he looked like a huge star. Destroying Braun Strowman here. We then get more legends shown in the crowd, and Joe and Jesse kind of talking about the destruction that they just witnessed between Fatu and Strowman. And then we get a segment where Triple H invites IShowSpeed to Indy for the Royal Rumble. I hope that doesn't mean that he's going to be in the match. Hopefully he'll just kind of do something with Logan Paul, but here's to praying that he's not going to be in the match. But that did happen. And then we get our main event where Gunther defeats Jey Uso via pinfall following 2 consecutive power bombs. Sheamus and Braun Breaker were the best match for me on Saturday night's main event, although I will say Jey Uso and Gunther were also very, very good as well. And I'll include Saturday night's main event in the pay-per-view rankings this time just because it is treated like a more spectacular show than just a weekly show. So I'll do a TV match ranking and then a separate pay-per-view ranking for Genesis and Saturday night's main event. So as far as TV match rankings for the week, as I said before, Christopher Daniels and Hangman Page was definitely the best match of the week for me. Like I said, just absolute destructive, a hardcore street fight, just absolutely all chaos kind of match, which was really good. Rollins and McIntyre would be number 2 for me. Nia Jax and Bayley would be number 3. Penta and Pete Dunne would be number 4. And then Fraxium versus the Rascals would close it out at number 5 for me. And then as far as pay-per-view match rankings, I would go with Tessa versus Jordan Grace. Like I said earlier, one of the best women's matches I've ever seen. Breaker and Sheamus would be number 2 for me. I would put Moose versus Ace Austin at number 3. Gunther versus Jey Uso would be number 4. And then Josh Alexander versus Mike Santana would wrap it up at number 5 for me. So definitely check out those 5 pay-per-view match ranking matches if you haven't watched them before. And if you're just looking to watch some other really good wrestling, you can check out those TV match. I would definitely check out Daniels and Hangman, but other than that, the matches on TV this week were, good, but somewhat missable, I would say. But that'll wrap me up for the week. Obviously, the Royal Rumble will be included on next week's episode, so I will see y'all after the Rumble.
Lights go up, I'm home. Why?